Hi guys, welcome back to the Barber Coach TV. So today's tutorial is going to be suitable for the introduction to barbering course as well as the barbering development course. It's going to be a haircut that a lot of barbers wouldn't do on a daily basis, even if they're experienced. And it's going to be a haircut that involves techniques that you need to do on the introduction to barbering course, especially if you're doing an NVQ. You will need to show methods with a razor and texturing techniques, point cutting. So that's going to be a lot of what we're going to be doing today. So this is going to be a textured mod cut. So we will be uploading this video for both categories because I think experienced barbers will also want to see this, but it'll also be suitable for the next phase of the introduction to barbering course. So the layered name for this sort of haircut will be a shag layered haircut. So it's going to be starting off shorter on the top, a lot shorter than what it is now, graduating round, shorter to the sides, keeping that boxed effect, and then gradually getting longer towards the bottom. So it's going to be the angle of the layer is going to be shorter at the top and then wider at the base, creating a choppy textured layer with feathered flicks towards the bottom. And then we'll be cutting the perimeter line in around the face to suit where we want the mod cut to be sitting, and that will be determined on live models by asking them sort of to give us guidance on where they want the hair to be finishing on the face or near the chin or on the cheekbones. They will guide us with where we put the perimeter line in the consultation. But obviously today we have a mannequin head, so I'm just going to be cutting it into where I think is going to look good. But I hope that this video is helpful. I think the techniques we will be using will be suitable for medium to longer hairstyles. So if you have those sort of clients, the techniques we're using today could make your life a lot easier. This haircut doesn't need to be complicated. So the reason why I think it'll be suitable for the introduction to barbering as well as the barbering development course, we're now moving on to the next phase with regards to the introduction to barbering course, where we're coming away from following pristine guidelines and pristine sections. And in this sort of haircut, we want to be working more free-flowing, more natural, thinking outside the box a little bit, being a little bit more artistic. So anyone who's doing the introduction to barbering course, you will see on previous videos how we've gone from, broken down, structured methods of sectioning, following guidelines, doing pristine sections, and then to the last video, before the layered theory video, we were then doing more free-flowing techniques, but still following guidelines and following sort of shape and structure. As you've seen in the theory video that we did, understanding layers, we've discussed then everything from the square layer to the graduated layer to the shag layer. So this will be relevant to the shag layer, but this is going to be creative. So you do need to sort of step out of your comfort zone, embrace that risk factor, and really have a go at this. So follow the methods I'm doing today. I'm hoping that it'll be a simplified technique that you could watch and realise, oh, that makes my life a lot easier. I don't have to necessarily section everything off and follow pristine guidelines. I can just use my artistic flair, my vision to create a masterpiece by just understanding the flow of hair and where it's going to be sitting. And let's just remember, our focus needs to be on what we're leaving behind and not what we're taking away. If we always visualise the shape we're cutting it into based on the style the customer's asking for, then there's less chance of making mistakes. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, then please feel free to message us, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. Okay, so for a mod cut, we want to be a lot shorter on the top and over the blend zone on rows 4 and 5, and then gradually getting longer then to the perimeter line towards the bottom. So I'm going to be starting at the top, at the back, just in front of the crown, picking my first section on road 1. So hopefully remember that if you're new to understanding rows 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, if you put your hand on top of a customer's head, road 1 will be your middle finger. That's generally where you start your first section, where you create your guideline and understand the length that we're leaving behind. Rows 2 and 3 generally control the direction and shape of the haircut, and rows 4 and 5 that controls the overall blend and how it sits connecting to the fade. But obviously today is a mod cut, so it's not going to be a fade. So from rows 4 and 5, we're then going to be graduating the sections out diagonally using a razor to create that textured finish, taking the length away before going on to cutting the perimeter line in, and then working through then point cutting, scissor over comb to really make that texture come to life. So I'm going to start at the back on road 1, set a guideline from the back, working forward, and being conscious not to take the fringe too short, but we are going to cut a fringe in today for this customer. So we're going to have that mod effect where it's going to be choppy and textured just above the eyebrows. I don't want to take it too short, only because I want to be able to use this hair on future videos. But the principles are still the same, whether you're taking the fringe really short, as a traditional mod cut, or a longer, more feathered, layered mod cut, the techniques are still exactly the same. So the goal is going to be starting at the back, working forward on road 1, finding my length, based on what we're leaving behind. We're then going to work out rows 2 and 3, but we're going to keep it square. And as we get to rows 4 and 5, we're going to then bring them out and set our guideline working down towards the perimeter line, but we're going to start angling it out. And rather than pulling sections and pristine sections, then cutting it away with the scissors, we're going to find our section and take it off with a razor. So really feathering that hair from shorter to longer throughout the whole haircut all the way around. We'll come back then, chip our perimeter line in, chip the fringe into the desired length, and then work through the hair, slicing it and point cutting it to really bring that texture out before we finish it at the end. So let's start now at the top. I'll tilt the head down just so you can see roughly where we're starting. So the crown point will be here. I'm going to start in the profile section just before the crown point. I'm just going to scoop a section with a comb. Bear with me because it is a mannequin head at the end of the day. It's not going to flow as comfortably and as neatly as it would on a live model. So just remember, if you've not used a mannequin head before and you're learning with one, it's easier to cut hair on a live model than what it is on a mannequin head. The hair is always a little bit awkward, but the principles and the methods are exactly the same. So let's not worry too much about it. Don't judge me if my sections aren't perfectly pristine. But if we can visualize the style that we're going to be creating and we cut hair into the correct shape from start to finish, then I guarantee you, even without perfectly pristine sections, the haircut will still be even and will still be effective. So this is going to be a mod cut, so we are taking it a lot shorter, guys. That's nearly half the length coming off. So I'm going to chip into that, point cutting it, keeping a nice textured edge. Starting from the back, finding the guideline working forward. Okay. So I'm just holding that scissors diagonally as I'm point cutting it in. So I'm coming in with the mouth open and then I'm cutting as I'm pulling away, and that reduces any risk of cutting yourself. So I'm keeping hold of this section. Keeping hold of that section, finding the section in front. So I'm just using the corner of the comb to pick that section, remove the rest of the hair, lift it and connect it to the section behind that's already been cut. I'm just removing any excess hair that we don't need. And I can find my guideline nice and easy. That's my guideline. I'm just going to follow that all the way forward to the top of the haircut. So just point all that away. Okay, keeping hold of that section. Now we want to be lifting the sections up vertically and as square and as even as possible. If we wanted to get longer towards the front, that we can get our guideline from the back, and then each section in front of that then we bring back to that guideline. So we're overextending each section of hair, so we're creating that long effect then from the back to the front. But here we want to keep it all nice and even and square on top. So each new section we lift up vertically, we connect a guideline to it, and we remove the excess hair. So still holding the section, picking the section in front with my comb, pinching it with my fingers, removing the rest of the hair, and then connecting the section that's already been cut. Lifting that up vertically, directly from where it sits in the root. There's my guideline, and let's remove the excess hair. So as you can see now, we're going a lot shorter than we have done in previous introduction to barbering cuts, where we were working with square layers and graduated layers. Let's get more creative now. Let's get a bit braver. Let's try out some of the techniques we've learned. Let's embrace the point cutting and texturing methods and really start to develop our skills and our confidence. So same again. So just folding that guideline all the way forward. Now these sort of cuts are probably more popular, or at least medium textured haircuts are more popular than your long man's layered, square layered haircuts. But it's important to still do them. It's important to get used to working with long hair, layered hair. It's always good to develop all forms of skills and methods when it comes to barbering. But your medium, your textured, your choppier styles, the surfier looks and mod cuts and sort of rockabilly haircuts, you will get a lot of them. There's still a lot of people rocking those sort of themes and have that sort of personality. I have a few customers who are musicians who have these sort of hairstyles. So it's good to be prepared, it's good to try them out, and it's good to see how other techniques work, like razor cutting and point cutting and feathering and slicing. It's important to try them all. So there we are, I'm just picking each section in front of the section I've just cut and just dragging it across with a comb and then lifting it up and just following that guideline from back to front. So even though now I've not been taking loads of time watching each section to make sure it's perfectly pristine, I guarantee you that the profile on top will still be the same. by the time I finish. So I'm just going to work now from front to back just to cross check what I've just cut to make sure everything matches. So that's a bit from row 2 and 3 there, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm happy enough with that. So let's put that back down. And let's move on to the outer rows now, 2 and 3. Excuse the rocking head. That's what I mean by using mannequin heads. It's just never goes smoothly. So taking the part of row 1, bringing it across into row 2, pinching that section, removing the hair in front and lifting that up. So if we lift that up square, there you can see your guideline from row 1, and that will then dictate how we follow the shape in rows 2 and 3. So let's keep that completely square and connect row 2 to row 1. Same again, just each section in front, just drag the comb across about half an inch forward from the section that's just been cut, bring it up, keep your hand profile square and follow the guideline. Same again, just keep working forward, picking a new section and connecting it to the section that's already been cut. You can see clearly there now what we need to follow. I wanted to reset that section just to make sure it was nice and even and cut cleanly. So there we are, all the way to the fringe. Let's connect the fringe to the last section. Bring it up into position. There's the excess length. How we're connecting it. So let's just cross check all that now. Okay. So we're ready now to move on to the next outer row. Row 3, same again. Starting at row 1, halfway across, drag it down to the blend in profile, pinch with a finger, lift it up, remove any excess hair from in front and behind the section that you're holding. Bring it all the way up. And connect row 1 to row 3. Still keeping that profile square. Bringing the hair, the layers of the hair up to a nice square layer profile. And just follow that all the way along. And as we get to rows 4 and 5, which will be here, we can then get the guideline from rows 2 and 3, bring it out to rows 4 and 5, and then work down. But we will be using a razor and going from shorter on the blend, longer towards the perimeter. So just pick that section again. So I've just grabbed some new hair now from the crown. So let's take that out too. I'm not going to cut the crown hair or the hair below the point of the crown like I'm cutting the rows 1, 2 and 3 here because we don't want it to naturally just start sticking up. We do want to get texture, and obviously in the mod cut we do want lift and volume and texture and spikes at times if we want to go that short, but I don't want the top layers to be sitting down smoothly and then the crown to be really spiky. Obviously the type of hair that grows out of the crown will grow up before it grows down, so if we cut the crown too short it's just going to spring up and it's going to be really hard to style. So I'm going to keep the crown bit a little bit longer, and I'll cut the crown, bring it out into the side profile and then razoring it from top to bottom so they'll just sit into layers at the back, because generally the back will be longer on a mod cut than what it would be on the sides and the top. Okay, so I'll cut the crown with a side profile rather than the top profile. So let's follow that guideline forward. So pinch in the section once we've drawn it in with a comb, lifting up, square, combing it through. Comb twice, cut once they say, but I still comb twice and cut twice just to make sure. So there's our guideline. Follow it all the way along, keep it in our section profile square with our hands. And if you're a new barber watching this on the Introduction to Barbering course, if you're still feeling that you're finding it hard to handle the hair, hard to pull the sections, hard to remove the scissors as you're holding the comb and bring it back in, then you need to do a bit more practice on the first video. Let's not move on once we've done one of the videos and practice it once. Let's keep practicing it until we're comfortable with the natural methods, with the section picking, with the holding the scissors and removing the scissors. Let's get used to the basics first and get the basics right. If we can't hold the scissors correctly and we're not comfortable picking and pulling the sections correctly, then how can we expect ourselves then to go on to do a really effective haircut? Let's get the basic methods right first, so then when we go to do cuts like this, where you really have to think about the style and the finish, you don't have to worry or think too much about how you're holding things. It should come naturally to you. So practice makes perfect. So when working with longer hairstyles, it seems to dry up really quick. So it's important to keep it moist and wet. That will then keep the tension, make it easier to pull sections, and make it easier to cut the hair and follow the guidelines. Everything's nice and smooth with plenty of tension. If you leave it dry out, it gets a little bit harder to get a comb through the hair. The sections just feel thicker. So it's important while you're working with long hair to make sure you try and keep it as moist as possible. Now if someone's come in with perfectly clean hair, and they just want to trim or they just want a bit of texture cut into it, then that's fine. And if it's perfectly clean, then it'll be nice and easy to flow through the hair. But when you're doing a restyle and you're cutting in a new shape, then I would always advise to wet it to make sure you can maintain the correct tension and make it easier to pull your section. So let's finish now doing section 3. So again, going back to taking a bit from road 1, pinching the section, lifting it up. Pulling up completely vertically from where it sits on the scalp, keeping my left hand profile square and removing the excess bulk following the guidelines. Same again, picking the new section, pinching it with my left hand, connecting it to the section behind that's just been cut so we can comfortably follow that guideline. And as you can see, I'm pulling nice quick sections using traditional barbering techniques, which allows us to flow more freely. And it also improves the cutting time because we're not taking so long watching and perfecting the sections. We're just understanding the shape, we're focused on what we're leaving behind, we've got a vision in our minds of what the style needs to look like, and we just bring it into position to cut it into that style rather than worrying about the lines being perfect all the time. That's not to say there's not a place for perfect sections and guidelines. There absolutely is, and if you'd rather work like that, then fair play to you, because the more precise your sections are, the more clear your guidelines are, then there's a very good chance your haircut will be nice and even all round. But sometimes it's not all about being perfectly even. Sometimes it's cutting hair into the shape that it needs to be in, following the growth pattern that it has, understanding where we need to leave length in places and reduce length in places to allow the whole style to sit where it needs to sit. If we just follow strict guidelines all the time, then everything will be nice and even and perfect, but with certain parts of the head where the hair might sit awkward or have an awkward growth pattern, then we probably shouldn't have just followed perfect guidelines, and maybe we should have thought outside the box and maintained length in places to allow the style to sit better and to suit the customer's overall look. But that doesn't mean that with long hair that we shouldn't follow guidelines. I'm still following a guideline working forward, but rather than spending too much time making a nice, perfect, pristine, perfectly parallel section and just flowing through the hair with confidence, understanding the goal that I'm working towards with a vision in my mind of exactly how I want it to look, focusing on what we're leaving behind rather than what we're taking away, and I guarantee you the overall result will still be even and will still be effective, and we would have reduced our overall time because we'll have more confidence and more vision working through the hair than restricting ourselves to religiously following perfect guidelines. Okay? Sometimes cutting hair is an art. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Sometimes you need to express yourself, understand the wavelength your customer's on, and really make sure you're working towards something together. If your whole focus is on just following perfect guidelines, you'll cut perfectly even haircuts, but it might just be a little bit too blunt or a little bit too standard or a little bit too perfect. Sometimes we just need to really just work with the hair, flow with the hair, see where it wants to sit, feel where it wants to sit, and just work with it. All right? Okay. So rows 1, 2 and 3 now are complete. starting from road 1 at the back to the fringe, out to roads 2 and 3 to the fringe, and now we can use a guideline from these roads on roads 4 and 5. But now I'm going to be sacking off the scissors and the comb. I'll be going to a razor. I'll be getting my guideline now from the top sections on the side, and I'll be working down, but on a diagonal profile, getting longer towards the bottom, using a razor on the sections to really make that textured feather edge come to life. Okay, when razoring hair to create texture, to remove length, and create that feathered finish with shag layers, we have to make sure the hair is wet. We don't want to be working through hair with a razor. When it's dry, it will snag, it will hurt, and it won't be good for the hair. We need to make sure the hair is wet. We've split the hair down the middle on road 1. So don't forget, our guideline is going to be coming from roads 2 and 3, which we followed out from road 1 with a square profile, using a square layer. Now we'll be connecting roads 2 and 3 to roads 4 and 5 on the sides, and then working down. So the method and the process is very similar to the graduated layer that was done in the introduction to barbering course, but we started on the top to set our guideline, found the guideline on the sides, and then work down square. But in this instance, we're not going to be working down square when we find our guideline. We're going to be working down diagonally, coming out towards the bottom. So as I'm razoring, I'm just getting longer towards the bottom. So I'm angling my hands and bringing it out, and really allowing the hair to extend as we get to the bottom profile. But we can be just nice and free with this. It's a mod cut at the end of the day. It needs to be creative. It needs to have character. It needs to be unique. It needs to be different. Now we do need to make sure though that the sections we cut in, we're not including the fringe in it, because I want to cut the fringe separately. So I'm just going to be starting a little bit further back. Let's tilt the head to show you. So you could, if you wanted, I suppose, remove the fringe and bring it forward, but I've got a bit of a pet hate about leaving the hair just fall into the customer's face. I really don't like doing it if I can help it, but we just do a diagonal profile, a triangular shape now, just behind the fringe to separate that section from the sides. Just to be safe, you can always clip it off if you want to. Especially if you're using a real model, or if you're practicing a real model, you know, we can twist that away and clip it up out of the way. With it being a mannequin, I'm just going to leave it sit down. So from behind that fringe section, I'm just going to draw another section in with my comb, all the way down to the side profile, and then split it, finding my guideline from roads 2 and 3. So in this angle it will be 3, and there it is. There's my guideline, nice and easy to find. So I'm just going to bring my fingers out to that, but I'm going to tilt the bottom half of my hand towards me and away from the head, creating that diagonal profile. And I'm going to start behind my fingers with a razor, working down until all the hair is removed. And you will find it'll be shorter at the top and a little bit longer towards the bottom. So same again, just pick that section, finding our guideline from the top, bringing your hand out, stopping at the guideline, there it is. I'm just going to tilt my hand out, hold my comb, and bring my cut throat into play. So from behind my fingers, I'm just going to start working back and forth, working all the way down until everything's removed. So there you can see the cut is clean, but there you can see how we're going from shorter to longer as we work throughout the hair. And we'll just do exactly the same from behind, removing that weight, creating that shape, creating that texture, and then the bottom section around here, we'll set that correctly and cut it in as a perimeter outline based on the overall shape and style required by the customer. So we found the guideline there. Here's the hair that needs to be removed. Tilted my hands out, away from the head, from the knuckles, and removing all the hair, working down from top to bottom. Same again, section behind. Pinching it, scooping the hair out. It doesn't matter if you pick a little bit from the section in front, that's fine. As long as you're holding the hair that needs to be cut in the correct position, all the other hairs that don't need to be there will just fall away as you're working through. So I'm finding my guideline, which is here, starting behind, and then working all the way down the hair to remove that bulk. And we can do this working all the way around the head. So draw in the section down, pinch in the section with our fingers, removing the bit we don't need, scooping out the bit that we want, finding our guideline, which is there, bringing the fingers out to the guideline, stop, drop it, and then work down behind your fingers with a razor, just being careful not to cut yourself. So just keep working back an inch at a time. So remove the section we don't need, scoop out the section that we want. I'm still holding it with my left hand. Bring it out directly from where it sits on the scalp. And there's our guide in there, and that's from rows 2 and 3. Now, as you might be aware, now we're working around the crown bit, the bit that I didn't cut on top, because I wanted to keep it layered and textured a little bit longer towards the back. So we need to rely on the guidelines now in the first side profile to follow that shape then as we work around. But as you get to the back, you'll see, unlike the side profile, we've only got to cut halfway down because we have the ears and the cheekbone. As we get to the back, it's a lot longer. So once you've cut one section in, you might find it helpful to then work down from what you've just cut to the section below, which will be a lot longer. So you're doing the top and bottom then. So let's do the top section first, removing the hair we don't need, scooping out the hair that we do need. There's our guideline. Let's bring the hands out to it and then follow that guideline down. So now we'll be making sure as we pick the next section, that we're also pinching a piece of the section that we've already cut to have that guide as we work around. So we pinch the section we need, bring the comb in to pick the section, let's lift it out. Can be a bit fiddly, but practice makes perfect. So we hit that now from top to bottom, and then we can stop there and follow straight down from the section we've just cut to pick the below section out, to follow that through as well. Pinch another section, come over the top with a comb, scoop that section out, see the guide and what needs to go, bring it out and then follow that down. Same as underneath, the lower section, comb all the hair into it, catching it with your fingers, bring it all out into position, and we can remove all that working down. So we just work this all the way around. We can stop as we get to this point at the back if you want, go on to the other side of the haircut and follow that guideline from front to back. See my guide there? Let's raise that down, scoop right underneath it, pick the next section from below the section we just cut, see the guide, and then just follow that through. So I'm going to stop on this section, and I'm going to go back to the front and work back from the right hand side. So let's find my guide from the bit that's already been cut, which is there. And we can follow that through from top to bottom. Let's scoop underneath to the below section. Comb that through again. And if we catch any longer hairs from the section in front, it doesn't matter. We can take them out with it. Same again this side. Draw the section down with a comb, remove the hair we don't need, and back underneath to pinch the section. Let's turn this so you can see it. So there's my guideline from the top, working out towards that, and then cutting down behind. So we can comb the neck section into the section that's just been cut. So we have a nice clear guideline to follow. And then we do on top, there it is. So let's stop there. And then let's work out towards the baseline. So same again, draw the comb down to pick the next section. Pinch it with your fingers, lift out, scoop with the comb. Underneath then, with your section in hand, grabbing the hair we need, finding the guideline. Let's do that again. Let's be nice and precise. There's a guideline, so we've got a lot of hair to go away on this one. Working down. So we're going to take a little bit of what we've just cut, scoop that out. Trying to think of the right angle where you can see it. Scoop that out. Found my guideline there. And it's just this all the way around. It's just we set the guide at the top, at the start, and then we just use the profile that's been cut at the top to follow our guide throughout the side profile of the head. So I'm just going to cut the lower section now. So work it from top to bottom, so top profile first. Scoop, lift, catch. Only a few bits to go there. Lower profile. Scoop and pick. Next section, so we can just flow through it. Section below. I'm just going to make sure everything's connected now, because I've worked all the way across to that side as I cut the other side. That will be why we're not really finding any guidelines now. So let's just cross check the hair. See the square profile? But gradually getting longer towards the bottom. So now we need to move on to the perimeter line. We need to set the length, desired length of the fringe and the desired length of the side profiles of the hair to where the customer wants it to be sitting. But that's how you create a shaggier haircut. So shorter on top, around to the side profiles, and then working longer towards the bottom baseline. So in the consultation, we want to be identifying with the customer exactly where they want the fringe to be sitting, and that then will generally give us the guide that we need to connect it to the side profiles. So if we were having like maybe a Justin Bieber haircut, for instance, we can still cut it with this principle, but then we want to be cutting the fringe in to suit the shape of the style, make sure the fringe is sitting in the correct place, and then based on where the fringe is sitting, that's then where you will get your perimeter line. So you literally follow on from the fringe, pulling the sections through the hair, cutting our perimeter line in. But because this is going to be a mod cut, we want the hair here to be coming forward. So that fringe is generally going to be a lot shorter than what the side profile will be. But it's having that communication with the customer is what will allow us then to get the right shape, get the hair finished the way the customer wants it. Communication is absolutely key. Yes, it makes it easier for us, but also puts the customer at ease. If the customer feels like we're asking enough questions, if the customer feels like we care about what we're giving them and we're involving them in the haircut, then they can feel then that they're not out of control, that they're involved, and then it makes them feel more comfortable then because they know that you're making sure with every single cut. Obviously there has to be a line. We can't be asking the customer with every section, is that okay, is that okay, is that okay? But we give ourselves an understanding of what the customer needs, and we keep involving them throughout the haircut just to make sure we're still working on the right lines and we're both on the same page. Keeping that customer comfortable is more important sometimes than the actual overall haircut. As long as the haircut's decent, but the service is brilliant, then that will keep them coming back. If the service and the communication is terrible, they've got a really good haircut, there's a very good chance they still won't feel comfortable enough to come back. So communication is key. So we're going to cut in now a straight fringe just above the eyebrows, and we'll be adding texture at the end. And then we'll be directing the side profile towards the cheekbones to cut in the profile line based on a mod cut effect. We'll add texture and razor at the end, and then we'll finish it then. So I'm just going to start in the middle, in between the eyebrows on the nose profile to pick my first section. So I'm going to bring that down. So if the customer says to you, I want it on the eyebrows and the hair is wet, I'd always advise that you bring it down an extra ½ inch to cut it, because when it dries, it's going to shrink. Plus, we're going to be chipping into it, feathering it and slicing it, so it's going to thin out a lot. So we need to make sure we're maintaining enough length. So it's going to direct that profile down, curve our fingers out to really extend the hair on both sides, and we're going to chip into it to remove that length. So this will be our guide on road 1 on the fringe. So let's make sure these connect. Now it's really important when we're doing precise cutting like this that we use the right comb, using a thin tooth straight comb, a thin tooth straight comb to get that tension we need and to make sure that we pull in the hair evenly. As I was cutting the rest of the hair, I was using a wide tooth comb because I really wanted to flow through the hair and pick nice big sections and connect them. But when we're working with smaller sections like this, it's really important that we've got the perfect tension and the hair is cut evenly. So just bring that back down again, keeping my finger profile square, cutting it all the way across. So I'm just taking a part of the road 1 section, bringing it out to roads 2. I'm going to keep it diagonal, flowing down towards the cheekbones to complement the rest of the haircut, connecting to the side profile. As you can see, there is my guideline, and I'm just going to work down, chipping into the hair that's left behind. And I'll do the same on the opposite side. So same as the opposite side, we're going to be taking a section from road 1 of the fringe, connecting it to roads 3. I'm just being really precise now with finding that section. There's my guideline, diagonal profile, and let's remove the excess hair from the side, connecting it to the fringe. So once I've cut the fringe diagonally, following the guideline from road 1 throughout road 3, connecting it to the outer roads, you can see then how that's going to be sitting. Okay, so now I'm happy with the overall length. You can see how we have a diagonal effect then towards the cheekbones, but a straight fringe in the middle. I still think I want to take this a little bit shorter. So as we have it here, I'm just going to chip into it. I'm just removing some more length, but just in the middle profile. I'm not going to worry too much about the outer profiles because I want to keep that diagonal feathered look towards the cheekbones. But I do think with this being a mod cut, we can be a little bit braver on the fringe and just chip into it a little bit more. This is a feathering technique. So we're going into the hair with the mouth open on the scissors, halfway up the shaft, and then cutting as we lift away, softening the edges of that fringe. So now the fringe is in position. I'm actually going to start from the cheekbone, working back towards the nape to set the perimeter line based on where we want the hair to be sitting here. So it's important to really engage your customer and find out where they want the hair sitting, where they want the perimeter line to be on the cheekbone, finishing to the jawline, coming below the ear, connecting to the nape, or whether they want it higher, just over the ear, and then dropping down towards the back, creating a more mullet effect. We have to find that out first to determine how we're going to be cutting in this perimeter line. But for me, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to come and follow the guideline from the fringe, down to the cheekbone, down to the corner of the jawline, and connecting it to the nape at the back, creating a nice feathered finish for the overall look. So I'm going to take a piece from what we've just cut, Bring it down. So my fingers will be resting on the cheekbone. The knuckles will be resting on the jawline, on the corner of the jaw. Following the guideline of what's just been cut there. And I'm just going to point cut into what's left behind. And I'm going to continue that all the way through to the nape. Just chipping into it. It doesn't have to be perfectly even. The length has to be generally the same, but they don't have to, the edges don't have to be precise. With a mod cut, we want the edges to be choppy and feathered and uneven, but generally sitting in the correct profile. Same again here. I'm just going to flow through the hair with a comb, making sure everything's connecting. I'm just going to bring a section from the nape into the section of hair just below the ear, just to make sure it's all connecting. We'll do the same on the opposite side. And as seen in one of the first cut-in videos on the introduction to the barbering course, I think the video is also on the barber development course. We'll be following the same method to cut that perimeter line in towards the nape without having to section all this away, because we've already cut this shorter and created the desired length there. So we don't have to worry about removing that. All we need to do is just bring the hair in the bottom section of the head down towards the nape and cut in the desired length based on a consultation with your client. If you need a guideline to follow, you can always use a guideline for one we've just cut on the side profile and just connect that round. But on some mod cuts, they might want to leave it specifically longer at the back. So we just need to identify, do we want it connecting all the way around, or do we want the sides shorter and the back longer? It's just getting that information off the customer. But the methods here, at the end of the day, this is about learning and it's about mastering the methods. But not with a customer, it's a mannequin head. But for the barber development guys, people who are already experienced at barbering but just want to better themselves and try new things out, see new ways of doing things, watch other people's ways of doing things, just to add more skills and understanding to their arsenal. It's important to also be aware of engaging with the customer at the same time. You know, it's not just about getting the guideline correctly, making sure the technique is correct. No, we've got to understand that the end goal of this has to be what the customer wants. The end goal has to be the desired look and style that they're going for, regardless how well we've cut it, or how perfect our techniques are, or how pristine our sections are. If this hair isn't sitting in the correct position, with the correct shape and texture that the customer wants, it's irrelevant how well you've approached it or what principles you've used. We have to have an understanding with the customer's needs, and we actually have to express ourselves in the hair to reach that end goal based on the information we've gathered in the consultation at the start. So if you are an introduction to barbering customer and it's the information of asking the customer the right questions is going over your head a little bit, don't panic, but be aware of what I'm saying, because when you are cutting live models, it is important to get this information and to be conscious of these things, finding out if we're giving a customer the haircut that they're expecting. But for now, while you're still learning, let's just work on the methods, let's just get confident and embrace that risk by applying these techniques to a mannequin head. So now, once the overall shape has been set, we've cut the guideline from the top, we've cut the perimeter line in from the front around to the sides and the back, connecting it all up. I'm now just going to flow through the hair, scissor over comb, point cutting as I go, just to really add more texture before finishing the hair. So I'm just starting from the top, putting the comb in on rows 4, lifting the hair out and just chipping into it. Picking a section underneath and then same again, all the way down. Try not to take length away, just directly point cutting into the section to really make that texture come to life. And we just want to be doing this now all the way around, top, middle and bottom. Bring that down and point cutting in. So we can do some slicing, as you've seen in previous videos. So we don't fully close the scissors. We just keep half open and closing the mouth without fully connecting the teeth. So we don't be removing the hair, we just want to be slicing into the hair. So if you're on the introduction to barbering course, really practice this technique. Picking with the scissors without stabbing the customer in the head, rolling underneath scissors and comb, and then from behind the comb you can slice through the sections. But make sure you do not cut the hair away. We're not fully closing the scissors, we're just behind, half opening and closing to create texture and feather the ends of the hair. Okay, so before we go on to styling the hair, it's important just to get the customer to run their fingers through, just to make sure they're happy with everything, to check the hair, to check the length, check the fringe, guide us on how they want it to be sitting exactly, so we can refine everything before we add product. So I'm going to be using some got-to-be salt spray, just working it throughout the hair evenly. I'm just going to work that into the hair then before using a diffuser on the hairdryer to create the finish. So I'm just going to be using a diffuser on the hairdryer, and we're just going to be working that into the hair gently, rotating it all the way around until the hair is dried into position. And then I might just add a small bit of product at the end just to give it a bit of volume at the roots. But it's important to remember when using a diffuser, which is one of these, we have to keep the airflow on low. If the hair flow is really fast and it's blowing all the hair away, then it defeats the object. Keep the hair flow on low, keep the heat on medium, but not so hot that it hurts the customer, and just gently work the hair in and dry it as you go in to create that texturized volume throughout the head. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Crazy Bull Mat Me Up. I'm just going to put a pea-sized amount on my palm. I'm going to work that into my hands. Really work it through my hands, evenly warming it up in my hands. I'm just going to smooth through the hair, directing it into position, and just working it out at the root, creating that volume. A nice natural textured, choppy and messy, masculine shaggy mod cut.
1, 2, 3.